the Motherhood Penalty by Correll, Bernard, and Hake. The motherhood penalty is a systemic barrier that keeps women from working, which is their theory was to test to see if there would be are there barriers to women that have children. And in their studies, they have shown through their research that there is a barrier against women, both women with families and women that do not have families, and in their with their research, and this includes widens the wage gap between men and women. But with their research, they also added in women that don't have children versus the women that are mothers. And in this, it showed that even niche women that without children make more and are quicker to be hired by companies than they would a woman that has a child or children or is pregnant with a child. Now but when in further, they also looked at which from is the single mothers, which doing more research into that the women that are most affected by the motherhood gap are single women, especially minority women being African American and that are Hispanic. Because these women it's harder for them in with the penalty because they tend to work more in blue collar jobs like construction work, production plants like Tyson's, or these ones that are more physically demanding than they are with white women who work more white collar jobs, or the women that do have two income households, and so which was a high amazing thing to understand when I was running through these numbers. And so these women have more proportionally have disadvantages, and these tend to have more than one child as well. So that gap is even further away from the incomes of single males and women that without children. And then there was a statistic done in another study where you looked at the gap between women themselves with the wage gap. So and they shown that white women get the better pay, they get better benefits, and they have they actually outpace males in the women in the wage gap. So now the wage gap is actually against where the men are now the minority in the wage gap rule. But again, the study proves that again with the black African American women are the lowest of all groups, both male, female, married, non-married, and so that penalty, that gap again is extremely wide for the black woman, and then with Latina women slightly higher on that rung, and which is something that needs to be greatly addressed. But with the womanhood penalty, we understand that the implications in this is that women that have children are getting looked at less and are actually look down on because they consume to be not as productive, not being available at all times, because a lot of these women that are the motherhood penalty, they have to either work a second shift or it's harder on them to get to for being steady jobs because the child can get sick or because they can't get daycare for the child. They can't receive. There's different a lot of things that they talk about in this about some of the issues that are done in when they're study on this and doing their research on it, which it's something that hopefully will be addressed, even though it's something that's it's still in this because it's a really broad on the way they done their research, which they admit themselves that it is really broad. It's not really narrowed down, and this is where the question that when I went through it and went back through some of the research and things myself is that again because it was broad, it was like because there we know in certain sectors where that are pretty much dominated by women, like nursing, teaching, and even a lot of corporate jobs are these women tend to I think they would suffer as much from the gap in med. But yet these same companies, even ones that, cause I wanted to to find some more research on companies that are ran by women and see is that gap smaller or greater the same way if you so you have a woman ran company, would they be more apt to have would they prefer to have more single women with no children, or would they have more like to have ones with more mothers in them? Because going back to productivity and also because like would they approach be on they try to keep it 50-50 or so forth, and which again would affect the actual motherhood penalty, which again, so that's an issue there. And then I did some people that are kind of against the research and the motherhood penalty, and some of their research, saying that these women they do have subsidies and things, which we know that the government has. Like when a woman, when she has a child, they have against a federal law, you get so many days, so much time off, and she can go back to work. But if she's out for longer, we have things like WIC. We have government programs. There are also most companies also have that support motherhood. They have programs that these companies themselves have. So if the mother is down for a longer period of time, that they would help with the things that they have like child care or health issues, insurances, car insurance, and things of that nature. So we know that there are things out there, but as far as again, that's why we'd have to do more research and do more detailed account of these numbers. But there is a wage gap, which I will agree with to some degree, because from a business perspective, that's to be to be expected. Like if you were like you have so many people that with disabilities, some jobs you don't want to hire a large amount of them because of the job, because the work that's entailed in it. So there could be a liability to them at the company if something they got hurt or things like that. So I understand it from both sides, but but in general, we can say that there is a motherhood penalty. I was like, but I think it would be more towards the lower blue collar work, and those are again, which I believe are which we say white women, Hispanic women, and black women who are people that don't have the higher education, the ones that don't have, you know, again, what we would consider more acceptable places in society to go. So a lot of these mothers, they have, they live in, low income areas. They live in areas that are not safe, areas that are, with trash and things like that nature. So this the penalty is there, but it's harsher on those people than it does women that got in college, ones that go to these, that went to college or that work in corporate America. But I like the study, and I do want to do more research into this and talk to my sister and some of the other women. Like we got a neighbor across the street who is, with pregnant, having her baby here shortly, and then some of the other ones that have children but they're still young yet, and kind of get their thoughts on the same process. But it's a great video. I mean, study, excuse me, and I'd like to do a little bit, learn some more about it.